knowing that if you can get a retention rate of 94%, your agency's worth a lot of money, your team is happy and healthy, and you're really writing the right business would be the ultimate goal of a truly sustainable insurance agency. All right. So let's say about insurance retention challenges. There is no shortage of challenges in retaining clients. However, I see a lot of bad behavior that agencies practice that definitely lead to challenges in retention. And I thought it would be great to kind of just keep those in mind as we're going through this podcast and this video. So the first thing I think when we talk about retention is, let's talk about your sales process. How do we invite them in? Now, if we sell on price, we will always have to service on price, which makes it very, very, very difficult to maintain retention. A lot of times I see agencies have a quoting process, but not really a sales process. And a quoting process looks like somebody calls in, we have the information, we send them a quote, and we move on. A sales process stops and introduces the agency and finds out a little bit more detail about the client, even non-underwriting information. They'll go ahead and find out what's important to them. They sell the value of the agency. They make the person feel comfortable. They dive deep into what the person needs and makes recommendations. And so it's not just a kind of wham bam, let me get you a quote and email you. It's far more diverse and far more detailed. I like to equate this sometimes to, you're in Vegas and you meet somebody and you end up at a chapel getting married. What's the likelihood that marriage stays? That's kind of what we do in a lot of agencies. Now, if you take the time and get to know everybody and go through the hard questions and determine if your values are the same and your family's the same, and you have the same goals and ambitions, your marriage is far more likely to stick. How we set up that sale to me is extra critical. I think that the most important component that we can always have is what that looks like. Once you identify how to welcome somebody, the next steps to building retention are to get all their policies. Another driver of retention is cross-selling and account rounding. Account managers and sales agents fight me on this of, well, why wouldn't we just take what they want to give us and then earn the rest? And I always say, because you probably won't. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek. But what I mean by that is you'll always be too B-word busy on the next lead, or the rate will go up or something will get screwed up and there'll never be the right time to go back after those other policies. So doing it up front is big. And then another driver of retention is actually to go ahead and try to get referrals from everybody. I think that that's another really critical component. When you really think about it, if you insure all my friends and family, I'm probably not going to leave you. And so asking for referrals is one of those very, very important components. So then we get them on and they're on the books. And now the biggest, most important thing is so many agencies, I call it kill it, put it on the books, and that's the end, right? We don't do much more from that. I think that what we need to do instead is be proactive and build trust. I think trust in insurance is one of those things that we just don't do a great job always of facilitating. We're always so B-word. In fact, I got a message from a client this morning and they ran their overdue activity report and found that there's 7D renewal reviews overdue. And everybody's going to say the same thing, right? I'm so busy. I'm so this. And there's three components that we put into place very early on when we launched renewal reviews. The first one is the raise your hand principle. Under no uncertain circumstance should anybody find out from a report that we're 70 renewal calls overdue. We should be communicating with leadership and our manager and say, I'm overdue, I need some help. That is step one. And so that is something anybody can do if you're honest with yourself. So I'm going to say that again. Anybody can raise your hand if you're honest with yourself. Now, if you spent time slacking off, if you're not following the protocols, if you're not doing all those things, well, then great news. You don't want to raise your hand because you're going to be caught out. And it's like the snowball's just coming to get you. And I think that that's something that's important. Next up, we have, in addition to that, at a minimum, every remarket and every non-renewal should have a formal renewal review because you need to update that application. We are not being good carrier partners if we're taking old info. And we're not going to go ahead and maximize discounts. If they are shopping, other agents are going to find a whole bunch of stuff that we don't know about. We need to update that application. Also, little ninja trick. If they're on the phone with us, guess what they're not on the phone with? They're agents. Other agents that are getting the information. People don't have infinite time. So we need to take some time with those clients. And the third step is we usually have everybody have some time blocks. And the time blocks are designed wholeheartedly to allow for some space to prepare for the renewal calls or just carve out time. So when the whole agency knows you're in your time block, for however long, every agency is different, those renewal reviews should be getting done. But what happens is too many people don't honor their own boundaries, right? The biggest and most important thing that we have is the idea that we set up structure so that everybody else can operate efficiently and effectively. And when that structure is not followed, now all of a sudden we end up with renewal review call backlog. But let's talk a little bit about why renewal reviews build trust. So trust to me equals retention. If I trust my agent, I don't want to go and rebuild trust somewhere else. If I am indifferent to my agent or I lack trust, that is when shopping occurs. So let's start with the indifference bucket. In indifference, it means I don't really have an opinion one way or another. I am okay with them, but if a better deal came along, I'd probably entertain it. This is kind of like, when you're in a non-committed relationship, let's just say. It's like, well, they're fine. If something better comes along, I might entertain it. I'm not lit up every day by the thought of this person, and I'm not, hate their guts. So they say the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. It's when you're just kind of met. And I think for so many clients, they're just met. There's been no interaction. The rates go up. Maybe they needed a certificate or an auto ID card and you help them, but there's no real vibrant raving fans. There's no real idea that you've got their back. There's no real getting out ahead of things. There's no coaching or education or check-in points. And so this leaves a whole book of meh. And honestly, what we're doing with that book of meh is we're not getting referrals. We're not getting the cross sells. We aren't getting the control of that relationship. We potentially have, gaps out there that are outstanding. And so this meh block of business is actually ripe for either departure or nurturing to turn into growth opportunities. And I want to say this because I see so many agencies sort of turn their nose up at renewal reviews, but they're so heavily invested in new business. And I always kind of question this. I understand when you start a scratch agency, it's that new business mentality. That's what gets you to be successful. But there has to be a light bulb moment somewhere in between there where it's like, hold on, there is more money here than here. And eventually, in almost every agency, your service team will exceed the number of people on your sales team. So you need people managing your money and going over here. And we say this for the simple reason that I think it's very critical for everybody to be understanding that we have to manage this book. It's so much more profitable to keep a client than it is to just keep churning them out. And we do that by converting that meh indifferent book of business into something more profitable. I say this all the time. Is it sexy to work on retention? Probably not. Probably not. Is it harder than having someone call you saying, quote me and nailing down new business? Absolutely. But knowing that if you can get a retention rate of 94%, your agency's worth a lot of money, your team is happy and healthy, and you're really writing the right business would be the ultimate goal of a truly sustainable insurance agency. Now, I'm not saying do not invest in new business. I think you need to make sure that you have a good sales velocity. There's no doubt in my mind of that. But if you have a good sales velocity and you don't have any retention, we still have an equal problem on our hands. So you need to give equal attention to both sides of the house. It just so happens a lot of times selling new business is way more fun. So we have to get the indifferent book. And then we also have to make sure that as we're looking at retention and we're looking at how to hold retention is how can we go ahead and really identify that these renewal review calls are growth opportunities. They're growth to get good referrals. They are growth opportunities to secure the book. They are growth opportunities through coverage increases, through selling rate increases. And all too often I see agencies just kind of stick a plug into it like, oh, well, we'll try to get to renewal reviews. And I'm like, it's the cure for everything. It literally helps you get good contact information, protects the agency from, get you cross-selling, get you referrals, stay in contact with your business. Now, I like to tell this story all the time. Several years ago, I used an electrician for my home and he was phenomenal. He showed up on time. He did a great job. He was economical. I got paid by credit card right then and there, and it was one and done. And I thought the world of him. I thought he just did a great job. It was a refreshing experience. Well, I needed some electrical work a few years later, and I couldn't find it, right? I couldn't remember his name. I was desperate. I was like, how do I find this guy? I scoured around. I think he changed websites, so it didn't see anything familiar to me. All I kept thinking to myself was, gosh, if he had just done a quarterly email to me or, had connected with me on social media or done something that would stay in contact, I would have been able to send him friends, family, referrals, and he missed out on new business. And that's the thing I don't think a lot of insurance agencies are seeing is that idea that you're missing out by not nurturing your current book. Now, let's go through the fears everybody has in making renewal calls because they're real. The first, I'm going to give you a handful. If I tell my team they have to do this, they're going to walk out. Now, don't get me wrong. I have definitely been hired just to come in and tell people they're making renewal calls because the agency doesn't want to do it. But the real reality is it's all how you position it. If you come in and you say, we're going to call every customer, they think they're going to die at their desk. And in their mind, they have to make 30 phone calls a day, which is completely inaccurate. But a really positive thing to go back through and make sure that they understand that that's not the case, right? Another example, thing that we have is how is it going to benefit them? You're doing a sales job here. How does this benefit them? Well, less inbound frustrated client calls, more cross-selling, more opportunity. Another fear we have is that if we start calling customers, they're going to shop. And I say, they're going to shop if they want to. We're just going to insert ourselves as part of that process and get that opportunity. And where I feel like that comes from is agency owners don't have faith that their staff knows how to handle that conversation. And I say, they probably don't, because have you provided them scripts? Have you done role playing? Have you shown them how to have that conversation? So the buck stops at you. Now, are you better off spending 90 days training your team on how to say this? Of course you are. This is going to have skills that, pile over to many other things. So I've often been confused as to why people are always like, they're going to trigger shopping. I say they're going to trigger shopping if you can't command control of a call. Now, the first couple might be rough. Of course, it's their freaking first time. By the 10th renewal call, if they follow our process, you'll be in a good spot. And we do have that option. You can get in on our online school. You can work with a member of our team to coach them on how to make these calls. The next thing I always hear about renewal review calls is, well, it's a cold call. Our clients don't want to be bothered. I go, they're paying you thousands of dollars a year. If you don't show them value of why they need to call, of course they don't want to be bothered. I don't really want to be bothered. But if I can know reliably that my agent's going to call me every year, and if I have something on my mind or a question or a concern, I can get to them, that's huge. That's just totally huge. It's the consistency that we all need to focus on. So what I'm encouraging everybody to do is embrace the idea of renewal calls. Don't shun them. They are hard. So are burpees, and they're worth it. So are burpees. At least that's what I tell myself. But if you don't have a way to build trust with your team, with your clients, you're just going to be a turn and burn shop. And that's a way to get burnout real quick as well. The true test of a business owner is growth, and growth in insurance will come from maintaining your current book of business. So if we haven't sold you yet on renewal calls, you have to read the blog that's associated with this podcast. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.